Just saying. I'm just saying. You a guy nicknamed Pokey, you would think, oh, he's a stand-up guy, but apparently not. Anyway, 707. We got funny nicknames on Guam. We should do a whole show on nicknames. Dave Dell'Isola, DeBit, now joining us from Department of Labor. 707. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning. My wife's got a lot of nicknames for me, too.
I bet she does. I don't even know how many of them we could say on the air here, so just be careful. Okay. So, Dave, let's just start with kind of uncle of mine who's on the PUA, and he was asking me if we could get an update on the batching of the PUA payments. Where are we with that?
Yeah, thanks, because every time we batch, a week later, we get questions. Did the batch got out okay? Is there a problem with the payments? Why haven't I received my check? Everybody's got to understand that if there was a major problem with the batch, of course, I would let the island know. But every time you batch, over 10,000 in payments of individual claimants, there's a lot of moving parts to that before we release that check. We have to reconcile the whole batch. And I have a whole team of people that just takes it and runs with it. You have to make sure all the withholding is correct. There are overpayments that have to be, taken out. The last batch, we had a double child support payment that hit on everybody's that had to be corrected. The week before, there was a little bit misalignment in the MICR checks that had to be corrected before the checks. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's always some small things that go wrong, some smaller that can be corrected than others. But sometimes it takes a day or two before we can feel that everything is good. And don't forget, we get hundreds of wrong bank accounts, and direct transfers that are not quite correct. So all these things are corrected behind the scenes that people don't see. And once we are confident, then we ask the DOL for the drawdown. That drawdown, if sometimes they can get it here by Friday, and sometimes it gets here Monday or Tuesday the next week. I can't. Sometimes they act very quickly and sometimes they don't. Just like anything else in the bank, when you deposit stuff or you ask for things in the bank, they say it takes 1 to 5 days. Sometimes it happens immediately. When we can't do anything until the drawdown hits. And then once the drawdown hits, then we do the direct deposits, then we cut the checks. And once the check's cut, we review the checks one more time to make sure that there's no fraud in the checks that are going out to different people, and then we release and mail it. So there's a lot of moving parts that can, delay things by 1 to 2 to 5 days. And if you don't get your check exactly on the 3rd or 4th day, it may come on the 5th or 6th day. And everybody keeps, wondering what happened. How come I haven't got my check? And usually when they do that, the checks were just being mailed out or something. And it's just got to make sure that people understand there's a lot of moving parts to a batch. We just don't batch and ask. Before we release, $17 million, we have to review that. And that's a lot of money to review to ensure accuracy and correctness. So that I wanted to make sure we get out to the people.
Yeah. Dave, what about this job search requirement? I remember we had you on a while back and you said that July was the target for that?
Yes. So there's 2 moving parts to the job search before we can implement. The first moving part is, of course, we have to let US DOL know that we are going to be turning on the job search. And then once we get their, affirmative, then the governor has to decide when she wants to turn it on and then do it by executive order. So just like 2 days ago, I got the authorization for US DOL to implement job search. And I've spoken with the governor, and she said that she wants to do the executive order in the latter part of July. So those were the two main things that I wanted to say. So sometime in the latter part of July, we will be doing the job search. What I need to do before I do ask the governor to go ahead and do that executive order is to start the education program on the job search. And one of those things is that we needed to request that that part of the software to be turned on for testing so that our people can learn how it's done. Remember, I don't have a UI staff that is permanent. We're all learning this every time we turn on a module. So it isn't too complicated, but it is a part of the system that has to be requested through a work request to turn on. It goes into testing, and then once we test it and make sure that it's working right in our system, then we ask them to turn it on to production. So there's moving parts. And while we're doing that, I'm putting together some press releases telling the public on how it's going to work. And the basic premise of job search, and I'll give you the director's view of it, is that every week when somebody files for their weekly claim, I don't know if you're familiar with it, Chris, but one of the boxes that you check is that it asks you, are you able and available for work? And that's one of the criteria for accepting a payment for that week. You have to be able and available to work. If you're off island and living in someplace else, you're not on Guam, how can you be able and available to work here on Guam? And that's the premise. You need to, and that's that way with on around the nation.
Wow, Dave.
Wherever you're living,
sorry,
you have to be able and available to work.
Okay, so if I'm on the PUA, can I go to the States and go to Disneyland?
Yeah, you can, but then you're not able and available to work for that week. You just can't claim for that week until you get back.
Wow.
So if you're going to the States and you're trying to promote your business, or you're trying to get hired, or you're trying to do something, then that could be an exception, because you're trying to find work, you're trying to look for work, or you're trying to do some inventory buying for your business, or you're self-employed and you're going out there to get contacts. You're doing something to further your work. Those are some of the outside things. But since you're able and available to work, once the job search gets turned on, then it's going to ask you, job search is required. Did you do any job searches? And you're going to have to say yes. It's going to say it is required that you do 3 job search. Please put in the 3 places that you did your job search. And if you don't have those 3 places, it's going to create an issue on your claim. And the one part we haven't decided yet is that issue going to stop your payment, or is it going to be a warning? And these are the kind of things that we are learning what the system does, why we are testing that module. But it's coming, it's going to happen. And we do have a form that we developed, which is just a simple box where you just put in the name of the place and the employer that you applied for, and it's not too complicated. Of course, you can always go on Hire Guam and do your job searches there. You never have to leave your house or drive around and look for hiring signs.
Oh wow!
And you can do your job searches there. But it is coming. It will be coming before the end of this month, as we get all these ducks in a row, and as we start educating the public that you have to do 3 job searches, because you have to, if you're going to check off the box that you're able and available to work, then once the governor, releases the executive order that job searches are required, then you have to go out and be available and start looking for work. So, and you have to comply. And in the PUA rules, it basically says that, if an individual who fails to comply with the requirements of this subsection may be considered not available for work. and be ineligible for benefits.
Dave, I had another
This is
comment.
in the PUA
Yeah,
guidelines.
sorry, there was another comment here. How about if you're leaving island due to medical treatment? Would you still be able to receive the PUA, or does that mean you're not able or available to work?
I believe, and please don't hold me, that if you have a medical excuse of a temporary in nature, then of course you are in your heart able and available, but you're not medically. But if you're like totally disabled and you can't go back to work, then you're not able and available for work. So if you have the flu for this week and you're just sick, I think that is a temporary situation for that week, and you can still, like I said, go on Higher Guam and look. But if you have to leave island, that's a good question, and I need to make sure that I don't give misinformation.
Okay. So PUA runs out in September, right? And I know that you had been you were at the Economic Forum. There's a program here where you guys are going to subsidize the hiring of unemployed workers up to $9.25 an hour for the first 480 hours of their employment. Dave, I had where's the money going to come from? Is this ARP or is this DOL funds?
ARP.
ARP. Okay. So, have you had any interest since you did your big speech at the Economic Forum?
I've had a lot of interest, and in fact, it's a good question. Thank you, Chris. On your station, on KUAM, they did a nice story. Yesterday, I was the guest speaker for the first in-person Guam Chamber of Commerce meeting since COVID. And I gave more information about this program as we develop it. And I got a great reception, great feedback. Everybody was very excited about this program. And the key to this program that, the governor wanted, she's naming it Business Para Itautau. So it's nice that I got a Chamorro name that I can pronounce halfway right.
Need to get a hit and look.
I may be half Chamorro, but my tongue is definitely howling. And Business Para Itautau. So I can roll that off.
Yeah, not Business Tautau.
No, business for the people.
Right.
And basically, the governor says, Dave, I want a program that helps small businesses open up and get our people hired. And she goes, what happens if we, help these small businesses or businesses through, helping with their payroll? And so I said, okay, let me take that and massage that around and let's figure it out. And this was during my when I went back to the States. I was kicking it around. These ideas are great, but we also have to figure out how do we implement it, with GovWam rules and policies, because we're not set up to do these kind of things normally. And that's always the challenge, is people get upset because it turns into a little bit of the difficulties and not as efficient, because government isn't meant to run these type of programs. So I've been talking with her and we've been kicking it back and forth. So in order to make it simple, we're going to make it $9.25 an hour up to 480 hours. And that's 3 months of full time or just 480 hours. And the good thing about this program versus my PUA or my COVID related is that we're looking at unemployed people, not unemployed because of COVID, just unemployed. So a lot of those people that weren't able to take advantage of PUA because maybe they were unemployed before PUA hit and they didn't qualify for PUA, now can qualify for this program. So we're looking at the unemployed, and this is a program that is meant for permanent employment, not for temporary employment. So 2 days ago, we had our first stakeholders meeting, and because I'm not going to say I'm the smartest person, I'm going to design the best program, and then anything that goes wrong, we're going to blame Dave. So, you know me, I'm going to I'm gonna shift some of that over to the private sector. So included in the stakeholder meeting, I had the women's, I had the chamber, I had the Chinese chamber, and GCA, GHRA, along with Guam, and we had a roundtable discussion on what they want to see, what they would like, who are we going to include. So we're going to include big businesses and small businesses. We are trying to figure out how we're going to distribute it so that we ensure that these small businesses get their fair share.
Right.
But, let's face it, a bulk of the hiring is going to come from the big businesses. And the whole point of this is to hire our unemployed people. Does it matter to you where you get your job, whether it's small or big? You just need your paycheck because PUA is ending. You need to get your family back in order and keep them in order. And the basic criteria of unemployed is that you have to be at least 4 weeks unemployed. I'm trying to design a program that we get the money out quickly, efficiently, and also ensure that we try to cut out the fraud. People can get very creative. And I want to ensure that, that's what happened with PUA, in the nation, is that they wanted to get the money out so fast and in such large sums of money that PUA in the States have 30% of the claims are fraud.
Wow.
They've given out $200 to $300 billion in fraud in an effort to make sure that everybody got it. And they got everybody.
Right.
Even the people who weren't supposed to get it.
Dave, in your in the article that you mentioned on KUAM News, you had a comment where, and this is exactly what we're talking about, where you had said something like, "Oh, what's to stop the hotels from using up all the money when they hire back, hundreds of workers?" Right. So that being said, is it just going to be first come first serve, or how are you going to ensure that you address the concerns that you just raised?
And that's the biggest concern. So how we're going to do it is we're going to discuss it amongst that stakeholders meeting so that we can equitably distribute it. So what I believe, and like I said, this is an ongoing design process where, we should have all the nuts and bolts figured out in the next couple of weeks as the private sector give their input on what they like to see and what they and how to implement it so that it's fair. But what I think I'm going to be able to do, or what I would do, is I'll just have everybody apply with the numbers that you want, and we'll just distribute it evenly and fairly. Believe me, the hotels aren't going to be opening 100%. They're going to be opening up in a small, controlled manner because tourism isn't hitting 100%. And that's what the purpose of this program. I'm not looking for a program, I hope, that will just be short in duration. I'm hoping this is a program longer in duration than everybody else's program, because some businesses are tied to tourism. Some businesses aren't ready to open in the next month or two. So when they are ready to open, maybe just before the Christmas season or whatever, that they can take advantage of this program and it's not already used up. That's my vision. This is the governor's program. She's considering how much she can, fund it along with the others programs that she's getting. So she has that task that she needs to figure out how best to distribute the money. So a lot of the program that I have, it depends on what my initial funding is. And I hope after that, maybe we can extend it and continue it. But believe me, I will either do a set aside or I will make sure that there is a fair share for all small businesses. And one of the key things that we're doing is that I'm partnering with GITA. And partnering with GITA is ready to launch the Small Business Pandemic Assistance Grant, which helps small business recover from the effects of COVID by providing up to about a max of $50,000 in assistance. They have a application that is being developed in the next couple of weeks, which will require businesses to turn in a lot of docs. The governor says, Dave, let's put these things together. so we don't make businesses run around to 2 different applications, turn in the same documents 3 different times. So we are working together with Gita to come up with a common application so that you can either apply for her program, my program, or both of them. And you turn in your docs, so it's going to be a unified common application for both of us. And I hope that will help, create efficiencies in the application process and less headache for these businesses. So there's a lot of moving parts, and things are being developed. This is a program that's being developed with the private sector, not just by government. So if you have anything bad to say, Chris, you take it up to them. You don't have to take it up with me. And I am all ears at the Chamber of Commerce meeting yesterday. They had some great questions and suggestions, and like a sponge, we're taking it in, and we will consider all that as we are putting the final touches on how we're going to pay, whether it's going to be a reimbursement or given to you ahead of time. We need to make sure the criteria, how we're going to equitably distribute how much each business is going to be allowed to hire. So there's a lot of parts here, and I know I'm taking up a lot of time, but know that we're working very hard. And one final thing is we're looking at this application is going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks because Gita is going to run her program very quickly. My program, we're going to be accepting the application, but I'm not looking to probably give out or award monies until October because we still got to close out and finish PUA. And always remember, September 4th may be the closing of the last work week of PUA, but people will still have to file for those weeks that are completed. So the 4th may be completed, but you can't file for the 4th until the 6th. And then onward, there'll be a lot of people catching up. There'll be people that are in appeals. There'll be people with issues that will be getting corrected. So for the next couple months after September, there will be people still getting their checks. So it's not the end of the checks. It's just the end of the qualified weeks that will be allowed to file.
Right on.
Is that enough, Chris?
Yeah, that's good, Dave. Thank you. Good
Anytime,
talk.
my friend.
Okay, my friend. I'll see you. There you go. Dave Dell'Isola, Daphne Shimizu standing by in the K-Wave News Zoom room. We're going to take a quick break just to let you digest all that information that Dave just spewed out on the link here, which is brought to you by Pacific Points, Cowboy Enterprises.
Spewed?
Spewed